We are back at it again with another heart-pounding video packed with all the action you crave. Today we've got a lineup of stories of good guys with a gun-stopping bad guys. These will have you on the edge of your lazy boy while shining the spotlight on those everyday heroes who don't wear capes, but sure know how to save the day. These are stories that fly under the radar of the big networks. In case some of you are wondering why those big news outlets ain't splashing these stories all over the place, well, let's just say the media game's got its quirks, with some heavy hitters pulling strings behind the scenes. George Soros. But fear not, you might catch a whisper or two on your local news. Without further ado, let's dive right in. Number 8, Tacoma, Washington. A tense situation unfolded, which underscores the value of being prepared and knowing how to shoot. At the Quality Inn and Suites on South Hosmer Street, just before midnight, a scene straight out of a suspense thriller happened. 45-year-old man, armed with a knife, stormed into the hotel threatening 3 employees. One of them, a 32-year-old woman, didn't freeze or falter. Instead, she used her legally owned firearm to defend herself and her colleagues from the imminent threat. It's a stark reminder of how crucial it is to have the means to protect oneself in situations that escalate to life or death. The man was hospitalized with injuries that weren't life-threatening, and he was later charged with first-degree felony assault. This response by the employee not only neutralized the threat, but also potentially saved multiple lives.
I never plan on hurting anybody, but it's either me or the person that's trying to hurt me.
Police say the man went to the hospital and will live, but this woman says it should have never come to this.
If the officers were to come before that incident happened, I wouldn't be scared or terrified to be working.
The woman involved in recounting the event expressed that she had no other choice. Faced with a direct threat to her and her colleagues' lives, her decision to use her firearm was decisive and effective. Turns out this wasn't the first time the man appeared at the hotel as a threat. What's sad is that the hotel had reached out to the police beforehand due to the man trespassing. The police couldn't get there quick enough due to other emergencies. This left the employees to rely on their own resources. In this case, a legally carried firearm that ultimately came in handy to stop the criminal in his tracks. Number 7, Lizella, Georgia. In a small, usually peaceful neighborhood in Lizella, Georgia, a chilling incident unfolded that could have turned into every homeowner's worst nightmare. The good guys didn't have a gun. The ordeal began on a seemingly ordinary Thursday evening. 67-year-old woman was out mowing her lawn. Out of nowhere, a naked man, identified as 25-year-old Tyler McElhenney, launched a shocking attack, tackling her off her riding lawnmower in an attempt to remove her clothes. Hearing the commotion, her husband sprang into action. He tried to fend off the attacker, but McElhenney was relentless, even going after the man when he tried to intervene. With the situation rapidly escalating and the assailant not backing down, the husband made a split-second decision that ultimately ended the confrontation. He retrieved his gun and shot the attacker, neutralizing the immediate threat. This incident reveals a stark reality. In the quietest of neighborhoods, danger can appear at your doorstep. Having the resolve to defend his wife while also having a legal firearm in handy was crucial in stopping the threat and saving both their lives.
I wouldn't want to walk through the woods with clothes on, much less naked, so it's scary, especially for my wife being at home with me not here. So.
Ken Burns has lived in this neighborhood on Trophy Place with his wife for about 5 years. He says it's normally quiet and they feel safe.
She goes out every night with our 3 dogs, walks around the block after dark. It's real unusual. All the neighbors know each other. It's usually quiet back here.
Both the woman and her husband sustained injuries, with the woman being hospitalized in stable condition, and the husband treated at the scene. McElhenney was transported to a medical center where he later died from his gunshot wounds. Number 6, Alexandria, Virginia. In Alexandria, Virginia, a regular trip to the gas station turned into a scene straight out of a crime thriller, but with a twist. Can you imagine yourself just getting back to your car after paying for gas and, out of nowhere, 4 teenagers decide you're their next target for a carjacking? That's exactly what happened to one legally armed driver. Fortunately for him, things didn't go as the carjackers had planned. The confrontation unfolded in broad daylight just before the clock struck 3 p.m. at an Exxon on Richmond Highway. What these teens didn't anticipate was facing a driver ready and able to defend himself. The driver, caught in a potential life-threatening situation, took action. His response? He shot at the attackers, leading to one fatality and another injured in the process. This incident turned the parking lot into a crime scene, marked by evidence tags and a car that bore the scars of the confrontation: bullet holes. Crime rates in that neighborhood have been improving in the last several months, but even then, these kinds of incidents remind us that petty crime remains a reality that we must all stay vigilant against. The aftermath of this failed carjacking saw one of the 2 18-year-old suspects, Jordan Poteet, losing his life right there at the scene. Meanwhile, his accomplices, including 2 15-year-old boys and the other 18-year-old Michael Morris, faced serious charges. Morris, caught in the web of legal repercussions, admitted to the planned carjacking with firearm use, but he distanced himself from the brass knuckles found, claiming they weren't his. Number 5, McConnellsville, Ohio. Out in McConnellsville, Ohio, a peaceful night of lunar eclipse viewing suddenly took a turn for the worse. Picture yourself cozied up in your van at Jesse Owens State Park, eyes glued to the sky, marveling at the wonders of the universe. Then, out of the blue, your night of celestial admiration is interrupted by an unexpected visitor. The visitor, a man from Cleveland named Anthony Senyak, 58, approaches on foot. Seemingly harmless at first, asking for a ride. But when the refusal comes, the situation spirals. Senyak doesn't just walk away. Instead, he reveals his true intentions by pulling out a hatchet. Yes, you heard that right. A hatchet. Who goes out at night walking around with a friggin' hatchet? Anyway, the peaceful observer finds himself in a life-threatening ordeal, under attack, in the middle of an otherwise tranquil park. But here's where the story takes a turn. The victim, despite being struck several times, wasn't defenseless. Good thing he had a gun. In the face of imminent danger, he was able to pull it out to defend himself, firing several shots at Senyak, who then decided retreat was his best option. The aftermath of this harrowing encounter involved the victim running to the Windy Hill Observatory to get cell phone service to call 911, and a search operation that ended with Senyak found hiding underneath a vehicle, wounded but alive. He was arrested and is now in the slammer. His charge? 1 count of felonious assault with no bond. The victim lives to tell the story. Number 4, Lenoir City, Tennessee. A quiet night took a sharp turn when a homeowner was forced into a situation nobody ever wants to find themselves in. It was around 10:15 p.m. on a Tuesday when the tranquility of West 2nd Avenue was shattered by a disturbance that quickly escalated into a life-or-death confrontation. Here's the rundown. Michael Owen, 20-year-old dude, found himself at the doorstep of a local homeowner attempting to force his way inside. Details leading up to this moment are murky, but it's clear Owen was not in his usual state of mind. Neighbors reported a party happening across the street, and Owen, acting erratically and possibly under the influence of drugs or alcohol, ended up on the wrong porch at the wrong time. This is where the story takes its critical turn. The homeowner, faced with an immediate and unpredictable threat, made the split-second decision to defend his home. Using his legally owned firearm, he shot Owen, who was declared dead at the scene. The incident has left the community in shock, with friends of Owen expressing their grief and confusion. Owen, described as a good man working through some personal difficulties, leaves behind a complicated legacy. Police investigations concluded the shooting as justified homicide, a legal recognition of the homeowner's right to use a firearm to protect his residents from perceived imminent harm. Number 3, Oakley, California. A situation unfolded that's a stark reminder of the importance of self-defense, especially for the elderly who are some of the most vulnerable. A 74-year-old woman, faced with a direct threat in her own driveway, took decisive action that likely saved her life. This wasn't just any confrontation. The woman was dealing with a 51-year-old man against whom she had an active restraining order for elder abuse. It was a clear case of the dangers some seniors face, even from those they once trusted. Early in the morning, around 12:30 a.m., this man decided to violate that restraining order in the most terrifying way possible, by assaulting her right at her home on West Cypress Road. But here's where the narrative shifts from victim to victor. This elderly woman, far from being an easy target, defended herself using her firearm. The result? The assailant was stopped in his tracks, suffering from a gunshot wound that ultimately led to his demise at the scene. Despite the grim outcome, it was a lawful use of self-defense as confirmed by the police. This case sends a powerful message. With a firearm, age does not diminish the ability to defend oneself. This woman's actions serve as a testament to the importance of being prepared to protect oneself, even in one's golden years, against threats that unfortunately can come from familiar faces. Number 2, Azalea Park, Florida. Down in Azalea Park, Florida, a story unfolded that feels like it's straight out of an action movie, except it's a little too real. And the heroes? A 69-year-old granny and her 80-year-old partner. Virginia Morrison was enjoying a quiet evening at home with Charlie, her partner, when suddenly their peace was shattered. Front door opened, and in walked 38-year-old Ezekiel Rosario Torres, with intentions unknown and a blank expression that spelled trouble. Without a moment's hesitation, Virginia sprang into action, grabbing a broom handle to defend her home, striking the intruder twice.
I'm hitting him in the face with it. He swatted the broom away.
Then,
I'm getting my damn gun. So I went to my bedroom and got my gun. I went out the back door.
and that's when she said she was forced to open fire.
Sees me. And he starts toward me. I fired a shot above him. Back off, dude. I'll shoot you. He just keeps coming toward me. So I shot him.
The Orange County Sheriff's Office said they showed up to find the man in his 30s shot. He was taken to the hospital where he was pronounced dead.
I feel bad for his family, but you just can't walk in people's homes.
The situation escalated quickly. Charlie, not one to sit back, grabbed his pistol and fired a warning shot, hoping to scare off the intruder. Rosario Torres wasn't deterred and retreated to the backyard, refusing to leave. That's when Virginia knew she had to take matters into her own hands. Fetching her own handgun, she confronted the intruder with the kind of resolve you'd expect from someone who grew up handling firearms on a Tennessee dairy farm. Despite firing a warning shot, Rosario Torres advanced, leaving Virginia with no choice but to protect herself and Charlie. Her decisive action ended the threat right there in their backyard. Police arrived to find the scene under control thanks to Virginia's quick thinking and unwavering courage. Virginia faces no charges. Number 1, Charleston, West Virginia. Graduation party turned from a celebration to a potential mass shooting when a man with an AR-15 targeted dozens of attendees. But thanks to the quick thinking and courageous action of a woman attending the event, a dire situation was averted. This woman was lawfully carrying a handgun, and her actions were nothing short of heroic. The incident occurred outside the Vista View apartment complex during a joyous graduation gathering. The gunman, identified as Dennis Butler, reportedly returned to the scene with an AR-15 rifle after being warned about speeding in an area where children were around. As he began firing into the crowd, it could have ended in unimaginable loss if not for the armed woman's decisive response. With no hesitation, she drew her handgun and engaged the assailant, ultimately stopping him in his tracks and preventing any harm to the partygoers. Charleston Police Department's Chief of Detectives, Tony Hazlett, praises her actions, emphasizing that she engaged with the threat and, by doing so, saved several lives that night. The aftermath of this incident leaves a community grateful for the bravery of one individual who stood up against a grave threat. It's a powerful testament to the fact that in moments of danger, the presence of a good guy, or in this case, a good gal with a gun, can make all the difference.